Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to use our new Janome overlocker. So the purpose of an overlocker is to create a chain stitch, just like this, that goes on the edge or the raw edge, of your garment. So the overlocker actually cuts the edge off and then it leaves this nice row of stitching there, so it stops the fabric from fraying, but then it also finishes off and creates a really nice finish for your garment or whatever you are making. So an overlocker works a little bit differently to a sewing machine in the fact that there are 4 different reels of thread, and then when we actually open up the overlocker inside, there are lots and lots of different routes for all of the different thread to go, okay? So everyone needs to go in a certain place. They need to be threaded up in a certain order in order for it to work properly, okay? There are also some fancy things that you can do with an overlocker, but for the basic things that we use them for in schools, how we have them set up is perfectly fine. We also have 3 overlockers at school. So we have a white, a grey and a black one. The purpose of having different coloured overlocker threads is that you can best match what thread you would like to the garment you are making, and especially because it is such a long chain stitch and it is quite noticeable, picking a colour that blends in well will also help improve the final outcome of your garment. So let's have a look at how we use this safely. So as you can see, there is a long chain of thread left on the overlocker. It's really important that before you start sewing, you make sure you have one of these long chains, and that when you finish sewing, you continue on to keep this long chain here. By leaving this long chain, it prevents the overlocker from unthreading, and it's really important because it doesn't just take 2 seconds to rethread this overlocker. It's quite complex, like what we showed you before in there. There is a lever at the back that lifts up the presser foot. However, I like to keep that down and I don't really use that at all. You can actually just with your thumb lift up the foot at the front there, and all you need to do is just slip the fabric under there, and the feed dogs below do a really good job at pulling the fabric all the way through. Down in here we actually have a blade. Okay, and the blade cuts your fabric as you are going. So it's really important that when you are stitching that you have your fabric lined up properly. So the edge of this platform here, anything that is on this side here is going to get cut off. So I'll show you. We've got quite a lot hanging over. I just lift it up and see all of this is getting cut off. It's really important that we make sure that the bulk of our fabric is on this side here. So a great way is to line up the edge of the fabric there, and then that way you will always know that your overlocking stitch is going to stay onto the fabric and you're not going to cut excessive amounts off. However, when using the overlocker on one of your garments, the best way to create a nice overlocking stitch that cuts off the right amount of fabric to leave your finished product looking really good is the edge of this foot here. I line the edge of the foot up with the edge of my stitching. So this line is very short, so you're not actually going to be able to see it, the overlocking as well. However, if I move on to this zigzag stitch here, so it just has to be put under the foot, and just line up the edge of this with the edge of the stitching. That's also a great way to stay straight when you are overlocking. Maintaining that line. And that way, no matter what piece of my garment, I can always be sure that my overlocking is at an even width and it's always going to look nice and neat. It also helps keep you going straight, and it also provides a bit of a reference point so that you don't veer off and cut off half of your project. Now it's really important, and a lot of mistakes I see is people have bits tucked under. So if we've got our fabric in the machine like this, and you know there's a bit tucked under, before you realise that you've got something tucked under in court, you will actually end up with a huge cut and a huge split in your fabric. So it's really important to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your work to make sure nothing is tucked under. Now, if the presser foot is up, it's really important to make sure that you lower it back down, because a lot of the times the machine unthreads because the presser foot has not been lowered back down. When sewing with the overlocker, so lining up your stitch with the edge of the foot or using this as a reference point, you do not need to push, you do not need to pull, you do not need to do anything. All you need to do is guide your fabric. Now the foot can be quite, like the pedal can be quite sensitive, so just making sure that you're taking your time. I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling. All I'm doing is steering so that I can maintain a straight overlock. Then when I get to the end, pull, 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 so that I leave that tail for whoever is next. I hope this video was helpful in showing you some tips and tricks for how to use the overlocker. They are a really great machine that can really help finish off our garment well, and something that we definitely use all the time in Year 7, 8 and 9 Textiles Technology.